We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job. You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you, Lee. Alex, hurry up week 2. A great week 2, I will say. Better than we thought going into the week. This is sometimes how this works. We will start in, I guess, the Conference of Champions this week. Sun Belt, Fun Belt, 30 minutes on the clock in 3, 2, 1. Marshall 26, Notre Dame 21. Oh, God, is so good. So good. Touchdown Jesus is so good.
Yeah, Marshall played a great game here. Let's talk about Marshall first because they are the victors among several other Sun Belt teams this week, and really looked impressive in doing it. So Marshall operates differently than your typical group of 5 team in terms of the way they acquire talent. Marshall has always, and maybe not always, but going back decades.
Always as long as you have known them to be a thing, you, the general listener.
As long as I've known Marshall has had a knack for getting players. And they do this in a few ways. They do this by how they qualify players and get them eligible academically. They do it by pointing to a good track record of football success, which has been pretty consistent in a lot of different conferences for a long time now with a lot of different players. This team is an example of that. A lot of really important transfer players. The quarterback who won this game for them, Henry Columbus from Texas Tech. Kalen Laborn, the running back who was really the star of the game from Florida State, former big-time 4-star running back many years ago now. He's been in college for a long time. So Marshall just kind of has the dudes, and they don't have the dudes that they should be able to beat Notre Dame and South Bend, but they're not really like a little engine that could G5 situation. I mean, they had linebackers and safeties who were kind of hanging with Michael Mayer, who's like the mutant tight end for Notre Dame in this game, who's basically unguardable. So just really impressive for them. Really impressive for Charles Huff, the ex-Saban assistant who now has a signature win in his second year at Marshall. Times are good in Huntington. Less good in South Bend.
I think the problem Notre Dame in this game, the quarterback's not very good. Obviously, you should not be losing to Marshall as Notre Dame. You shouldn't be. But like I go back to the fact what you mentioned, Michael Mayer, right? The mutant tight end. Notre Dame's problem is almost that Michael Mayer's like all they have, or at least Michael Mayer style bodies. Like I'm going to throw it back all the way to Golden Tate. Like when is the last like burner legit wide receiver Notre Dame has had?
You could make a case for like Chase Claypool,
but the problem is Chase Claypool is a flex tight end. Like who's the last non-flex tight end, big body guy? Like find me a burner. I know it's easier said than done. Notre Dame. If Notre Dame has lost, it's decided offensive line advantage. This may be a much longer build than I think I thought it was going to be. Recruiting class is still going to be pretty good coming in next season, but they ain't playing in September and they ain't playing in October.
Maybe some mea culpaing here in terms of those of us who maybe helped perpetuate a long honeymoon here for Marcus Freeman. That's over. You're 0-3. Yeah, like one was a bowl in a weird situation. One was Ohio State, but this is Marshall. 0-3 is 0-3. I don't think it's ever happened in Notre Dame history. I don't think this is why they lost the game, and it's hard to pick out any individual decision here as being terribly wrong. He coaches like a defensive coordinator. He calls the game very conservatively, and you might have to with this offense.
Yeah, I think you might have to with this offense. That's where.
But one thing that I'm going to monitor. I mean, they punted a couple of times from plus territory on 4th and medium to 4th and long-ish. As they get better players in future years, does he call games more aggressively, kind of like Dave Aranda last year at Baylor? It's a thing I'll be watching. But reset for Notre Dame this year. This will not be a playoff contending Notre Dame, and may or may not even be a New Year's Six relevant Notre Dame. So we'll see. Elsewhere in the Sun Belt, Appalachian State 17, the Texas A&M Fighting Aggies 14.
Yeah, I got to hand it to you. You were really right about A&M's ordinariness. Is that a word? On the lines. Yeah. I just like it. The problem is not that they got dominated by App State, because they didn't. And the problem is that they didn't dominate App State because they didn't. Like, for a team with lines coming into this game that you thought were going to be as such, you got pushed around at points by this App State team that is A, getting College Game Day coming this Saturday, which is awesome, but B, like, they were just so pedestrian in the passing game. There's just
not even pedestrian. Not even pedestrian.
The slant that they hit in the fourth quarter, I think, that went for like 20 yards, that was a fifth of Haynes King's passing yards. They basically did not go vertical over the middle of the field at all. And I think it's really because they don't necessarily have the ability to do so. It's not good on offense from A&M.
No.
It's not good at all. And, you know, I do think, like, you look at the play total, A&M had 38 plays in this game. Part of that is because when A-Chain returns that kick, obviously you lose that possession. I get it. But Alex, do you think A&M was going to go on a 15-play, 82-yard drive if A-Chain would have gotten a touchback on that play or on that kick?
No, I don't think so. I also don't think that they had anything in the bag other than relying on Devon Achane to make like incredible plays. I mean, the A&M offense was worse than it sounds, if that's possible. And they only had 38 plays, but even with the plays that they had, they needed a 95-yard kickoff return from him to get some points. And he had a 26-yard run where he just burst through people for their other touchdown. They have some slants, like Haynes King can throw the slant, but they have nothing. Beyond that, their offense is unexciting, unimaginative, not great. 2013 was a really long time ago, Jimbo. The whole like QB developer thing no longer applies as far as I'm concerned, because it's been a lot of years of really lousy offense and quarterback play for A&M. On the app side, give it to these guys. They were situationally dominant in this game. So the yards per play number was bad. It was 3.8. 17 points isn't much. It should have been 21. They had a drop touchdown in the fourth quarter.
They ran fucking 80 plays.
But they were 9 of 20 on third downs. They were 3 of 5 on fourth downs. Cameron Peoples is a grinder. Chase Bryce, too, really. Chase Bryce has had a circuitous college career that started as a backup to Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, where he had, I think, one really shining backup performance in 2018 to save them in the game against, I think, Syracuse. He's bounced around. He was at Duke. He's at App now. This is a great moment for him. It's a great moment for App. I'm happy for Boone. A&M just ain't it, guys. Like they've sold you a bill of goods if you happen to believe in this coming into this season. They're not ready, and also it's his 5th year. So hey, maybe it'll be the 6th, but it's not going to be this year.
Real quick, I understand how high the bar is here. The field goal attempt near the end of the game by A&M is the worst kick attempt I think I've ever seen. Georgia Southern 45, Nebraska 42. You guys are never going to fucking believe this. I swear to God. Guys, Nebraska lost a one-score game. Hey, I know that that's surprising. I know that that's a shock to the system for a lot of folks, but they did. Who could have seen it coming? 5-22 in one-score games for Scott Frost in 47 total games. 10 straight losses in one-score games for Nebraska. Nebraska 214, I believe, and 0, if I read that graphic right, when scoring over 35 points, and 11-0 per Scott Frost. 11-0 under Scott Frost per the broadcast. I thought Nebraska's offense played pretty well in this game, to be honest with you. Casey Thompson was good. Casey Thompson did not turn the ball over. I thought that they obviously moved the ball pretty well. They scored a lot of points. Good on offense. However, your offense does not play defense.
No, your offense doesn't play defense, and Georgia Southern carved these guys up. It is worth noting, Georgia Southern did not practice, did not install something resembling a conventional throw the ball forward, drop back passing offense until a couple months ago, until spring. Like they still had strong elements of the triple option in their blood until Clay Helton got there. This is their second game running something more resembling a modern offense, and they crushed Nebraska's defense, like crushed them. The average Georgia Southern drive in this game went 61 yards. Longest in the country, by the way, this week. 642 yards from scrimmage for Georgia Southern. Kyle Van Treese is the Buffalo transfer. I think he and Clay Helton have kind of done a very quick reformation of this offense that resembles to me what Western Kentucky had last year, not schematically, but just in terms of how different it was than what they did before. What WKU had with Bailey Zappi and Zach Kitley, their offensive coordinator last year, both of them now gone. Zappi in the NFL, Kitley at Texas Tech. But like, Georgia Southern is not used to doing this, and Nebraska just got caved in by them. Casey Thompson was good, though.
Alabama 20, Texas 19. I do not know how you can take anything away from Texas in this game. It's the best I've seen Texas's defense play, like, since Earl Thomas played for them. I mean, they were physical, they were fast. Up front, I think they dominated Alabama in a lot of portions in this game. They had a clear Quinn Ewers plan when Quinn Ewers was in the game, obviously, which was not that long. But max protect, frustrate Will Anderson and Dallas Turner, make it so that they cannot affect Quinn Ewers. Put like 2 people in the passing route and just send Xavier Worthy and just throw it up because Quinn Ewers throws a really good deep ball. At the end of the day, you got Bryce Young, and that is going to happen. I thought Alabama was ordinary at receiver for receivers not named Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah,
and
who's not a receiver.
You will note that Jahmyr Gibbs is not a wide receiver. Alabama does need to figure that out. But you know they couldn't. I think maybe Nick would have wanted to, like I said, coming into the season, throw it back to something that's a little bit more murder ball-y, that's a little bit more 2012-y for them as much as you can in a post-RPO kind of open era. But they aren't really able to do that when Texas' defensive line is flat dominating them. So I just want to give all of this to Texas. And I know that they did not win this game, but Texas played so well in this game.
Yeah, you know what?
And Quinn Ewers obviously goes down. And when Quinn Ewers goes down, you got to throw a lot out. I mean, I know Hudson Card played last year and played in the system, knows the system, but he is the backup quarterback for a reason.
So I am sort of the no moral victories at Texas worldview because it's Texas. But I will give a but. It is encouraging that there were so many little bits of stupid bullshit that could have gone just an inch differently, and that Texas would have in fact beaten the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think the one that Texas fans, maybe there are 2, but the one that Texas fans may be the most hurt about is the play in the end zone.
Yeah, the safety thing was insane.
Yeah, so this was almost one of the worst bits of officiating that has ever happened in college football, where Bryce Young was under heavy pressure. He was trying to keep the play alive. I think it was DeMarvion, was it Overshown for Texas, who got back to him and just like shoved him while he was still trying to keep the play going. They called roughing the passer and targeting. They overturned the targeting, obviously, and then they basically made it up that they did not even mean to call roughing the passer. Like, this was a complete lie, You do not have to take it seriously. And they were just like, oh, we miscommunicated that it was roughing the passer. We actually never meant to call that because it's not a reviewable foul. They ultimately reversed the highway robbery that would have been to give Alabama the ball, but they did not give Texas what I think was a safety, what should have been a safety. There was no receiver in what I would call the vicinity, and the throw definitely did not get back to the line. Arguably, the throw went backwards.
Well, I actually think, to be fair to Bryce Young, which, by the way, side note, insane that Bryce Young got this throw out of his hand, by the way. But I also think it hits somebody in the helmet. Like, I think that's why it caromed, to be fair. I think it got kind of tipped.
At any rate, it was grounded on purpose and should have been 2 points for Texas. And when you lose by 1, that stings. Also, X-Worthy had a tough drop on their opening script that would have been a touchdown and wasn't. Richard, you said it a lot last week, and I think you made a good point here. You can't make too much of the first 15 plays or so. But Texas really had it for a lot of those first 15 plays.
Yeah, I mean, Sark was in his bag. Now, the thing is, again, it's not that they don't matter. They matter. They absolutely do.
Well, they count.
You compartmentalize them for the rest of the game. Like, what you are in the first 15 plays is not necessarily what you will be over the next 60-odd. That's the point there. And obviously, we will never know with Texas because Quinn Ewers got hurt. Tennessee 34, Pitt 27. I think Tennessee left some meat on the bone here for real, especially in the first half. But
Yep.
I was very impressed with how Pitt stayed in this game and almost won it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll dialogue about Pitt for a sec, but first, Tennessee to me is really good. Like the way we talk about Tennessee is a bit discourse poisoned because of the real estate, because of who they share their real estate with. You are not going to win your division this year and probably not anytime for the foreseeable future. You're going to get stuck with Alabama every year because that's the way it is. And you lose those games almost all, or in Bama's case, literally all the time. And so we don't talk about Tennessee as having made a leap. But if you just watch them, they've made a leap. Like, they've got a good thing going here. They're extremely athletic on both sides of the ball. They have these two receivers, Cedric Tillman and Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy's had an interesting college career. He's bounced around a bunch of places. But these guys, especially Tillman, like, Tillman is a guy. Tillman is a serious player. I don't know how he was so under the radar because he's the son of an NFL player and he went to Bishop Gorman in Vegas, but I guess he was a very late bloomer. He took what he wanted. I forget.
Spencer Tillman's son? Who's the dad
might be
there?
Might be Peanut Tillman.
Gotcha.
A Tennessee fan will fact check us. This is one I didn't put in my notes, but I know he's an NFLer son. He's good, and Tennessee just has good players on both sides of the ball. Pitt, Keaton Slovis is not as good as Kenny Pickett was last year, but he still gives them a chance. And he got hurt. The backup, Nick Patty, tried really hard, and he also got hurt. So Pitt was just in a tough situation. To get it to overtime was honestly kind of impressive on Pitt's part. I think Pitt's decent. I think Pitt's decent. Yeah.
I definitely, like, Pitt is, I don't think Pitt is it, but I think Pitt is decidedly decent and didn't get blown out in this game, didn't get raced in this game, especially given how Pitt plays defense and wants to play defense. By the way,
yeah. Pat will live and he will die playing that same defense. Yeah. I mean, we said going into this game, what's it going to be, Richard? It's going to be corners and it's going to be receivers. And the Tennessee is going to throw 70 deep balls. And if Tennessee's guys catch half of them, Tennessee wins. Pretty close to an accurate depiction of how the game went. Pretty close. I don't know. By the way, we're going to blow past the 30-minute clock on this show, but pause it for a sec. For some Tennessee-related podcast business, congrats to our Nokian Tires friends, many of whom are in Tennessee. Nokian makes reliable, effective, high-quality tires for all weather and all seasons, made thoughtfully in as eco-friendly a way as you can imagine tires being made. NokianTires.com/SZD is the place to go to fill out our college football road trip map. You can click through there, check out some tires for yourself. They are made fantastically. Nokian is a great partner of ours. Thanks a ton to Nokian. Thanks to you for listening. That's the good news. Richard, there is some bad news for your Florida Gators, who lost 26-16 to the Kentucky Wildcats in the Swamp.
Yeah, for Kentucky's credit, Kentucky's offensive line in the beginning of that game was horrendous. Again, jumbled from last week, and that offensive line was wet behind the ears. They got better as this game went on. I mean, you watch this game from first quarter to fourth quarter. They literally gelled over the course of the game. On offense, and also Kentucky special teams, horrendous in this game as well. Now, the problem was, for Florida, couldn't take advantage of it at all. One of the things that I think I mentioned on this show is that Anthony Richardson pretty much throws every ball the same. It's all a four-seam fastball. It's all he's got in the locker. There was a concerted effort by Kentucky, especially with the underneath stuff and the shallow stuff that he threw, to get hands up in throwing lanes. They got a pick on one of those, of course. But it's on Anthony Richardson to change arm angles, change velocity over the course of his career. He's going to have to get better at that. Kentucky, rush-wise, very disciplined, very good. Rush lanes to keep him penned in. I liked the pass rush that Kentucky showed in that game. Pick six thought was receiver miscommunication. But you go back to what Billy Napier said before the season. 39 completed passes for Anthony Richardson over the course of his career coming into the season. Remember what he was and remember how much he's actually played. Wide receiver screens are not great for Florida when the wide receivers can't block. And Kentucky's defense, again, played well in this game, refused to take the cheese on motions and all the horizontal stretches that Florida tried to throw at them, stayed home, stayed disciplined, won the game. Very fitting that Mark Stoops got the record-breaking win. He is now the winningest Kentucky head coach ever. More than one Paul Bear Bryant. He got that over Florida. There is nothing more illustrative of how Mark Stoops has pivoted this program than the fact that Kentucky has beaten Florida 3 times out of the last 5. Mississippi State 39, Arizona 17. Jayden de Laura is fun. You were right. Coming into the season, Jayden de Laura is a lot of fun.
Arizona's fun. Arizona probably not good, and we saw, I think, the anticipated problem here, which is that Mississippi State has an SEC defensive line, and Arizona, and it was very late at night on the East Coast, and even on the West Coast, because you have to wait till late in the day to play in Arizona at this time of year. Yeah, Arizona's fun. They just don't have the guys to compete with an SEC front on either side of the ball. Makes decent sense. Arkansas 44, South Carolina 30. Richard, are you renouncing your Spencer Rattler membership?
This is a formal statement from the desk of Richard Johnson. I do retain that Spencer Rattler will supernova in a game this season because of natural ability, but the down-to-down inconsistency, it's just too much. It's just still too much for me. I will not be remaining on this ship. We'll be burning most of the lifeboats. I think we're going to leave one for, again, a late season supernova at some point in time. But if you want to be fun, Google who South Carolina plays on Saturday.
Will you just tell me, because I actually want to know?
Georgia.
Oh boy, that's not going to be good. 6 sacks and a pick. So like the numbers were actually kind of good and kind of big, but the problem is 6 sacks and a pick. And a lot of the sacks were killers. There was a safety involved on an intentional grounding. Situationally, it just wasn't good. He was sacked on a 3rd and 7 when it was a 5-point game in the third quarter. He hangs on to the ball. He tries to be hero.
Remember, some of this is not all his fault. I will be fair to him because, again, he's playing behind an offensive line that is not it. I mean, Shane Beamer was talking about that all week. And he doesn't have Creed Humphrey in front of him. He does not have some of the weapons, obviously, that Oklahoma has. I don't want to do all Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler, but it is instructive into how it bleeds into this game. BYU 26, Baylor 20. Game of the night. Too late for me, but woke up this morning and rewatched it and was very impressed with how this game played out. I thought Jaron Hall had some really interesting flashes in this game. Really, really impressed.
He's a good player.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Are we done with Baylor's offense? Not exactly sparking joy.
I'm not sure how much they trust Blake Shapen, and that's weird because when you unseat your Big 12 championship quarterback, which they did, Gary Bohannon, who transferred to USF, to replace him with someone after spring ball, you usually are expecting, I would think, a pretty big leveling up. I think Aranda and Grimes can evaluate their QBs better than me, but we haven't really seen that yet and definitely didn't see it in this game. The kicking was painful here. Both teams missed makeable field goals that would have won it. But yeah, BYU outlasts them. And I think Shahan Jayaraja of CBS Sports said this. I think we may start to see within a few weeks, if things stay on course, some BYU playoff chatter. Just chatter. And that's just chatter that we will keep an eye on. Elsewhere in the Big 12, where BYU will soon be. Iowa State 10, Iowa 7. New policy of Split Zone Duo LLC. We conscientiously object to talking about the Iowa offense until such a time as Brian Ferentz is no longer the offensive coordinator. But we can talk about other stuff.
I don't know what comes first, the heat death of the universe or that, but until it happens.
We can talk about Iowa State, though. They won this game despite having 2 different punts blocked, which is just about the most Iowa State thing you could conjure up. Same guy for Iowa, by the way. Lucas Van Ness, shouts to him, blocked 2 punts. Does not occur much that a team will have 2 punts blocked and then win. It happens about once a year in college football. Nebraska has somehow done this a couple of times in the last decade. Michigan did it against Florida a few years ago. The Big Ten seems to have a knack for it. Iowa State clinched this game on a missed field goal in the rain after giving Iowa 20 free yards because they were on the field thinking the game was over. This is a tremendous rivalry. I mean, may it rain forever.
Matt Campbell's first win over Iowa, by the way, 0-6 heading into the game. Kansas 55. Yeah. 0-6 in the Cyhawk. Kansas 55, West Virginia 42. The rare 2-score win in overtime. This game went to overtime.
Win in overtime. A 13-point win in overtime.
I do want to alert the listeners. I hope you're sitting down. If you're driving, perhaps pull off to the road. Kansas is competent, and they very well may have a quarterback. Jalen Daniels can play.
Yeah, he's been around.
Friend of the show, Seth Galina, put me on. Jalen Daniels can play.
Kobe Bryant for Kansas pick-sixed it in overtime against JT Daniels
Quick pause
to end this game.
Are we going to see, similar to the fact that we saw a lot of Shaqs pop up circa 2010-ish as
Yeah,
kids
maybe.
started naming Shaq. This is now our second Kobe Bryant, prominent Kobe Bryant in college football. We may be getting more Kobe Bryants. And also, this is another Kobe Bryant.
Did Cincinnati have a Kobe Bryant as well?
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah. This is a different spelling of Kobe than
different spelling of Kobe.
Yeah. Yeah, there's multiple spelling. I think Cincinnati's was a Koby, if I'm not mistaken. This is a Cobee. Thing to monitor, especially about like 16 years from right now. West Virginia, Richard, we're putting this one on job to watch status. Like the discourse,
not my words, yours.
I'm listening. All right, check out what West Virginia fans are saying on the internet about this game. They're not happy. Neil Brown is 17-20 there. That's not good enough. They play Virginia Tech in a couple weeks. If they lose that game, you're going to see some serious Neil Brown dialogue happening. Texas Tech 33, Houston 30, 2 overtimes. Houston believes you should take the ball first in overtime. Sounds dubious to me that it makes any difference at all, but they believe in this, as they explained recently to Andy Staples at The Athletic. They won last week against UTSA doing it. They lost this week to to Texas Tech doing it. Interestingly, they started both overtime periods with the ball, because they wanted it first, and then Texas Tech in the next period was like, no, you can go first again. That's fine. Texas Tech won.
A buddy texted me and was like, how do possessions work in overtime? Because like you're so used to obviously deferring and all that kind of stuff. It was very funny.
No, I was taken aback by it.
K-State 40, Missouri 12. The only thing I have here is Missouri ever going to play defense in the post Ryan Walters?
Are they ever going to play any phase of the game? This was a three-phase ass kicking in the truest sense of the word. So Deuce Vaughn is great. He got his 145 yards. He's good. The K-State defense pummeled these guys. Four different players had interceptions for Kansas State. They scored in a punt return touchdown. It was really 40-6, but they allowed a pity touchdown like at the very, very end of the game.
That's nice of them. That's kind of them.
Like Kansas State beat the hell out of them in this game. Like this, Kansas State is good. And it's a mission of mine to be a little bit more respectful of them this year, because they were quite anonymous while being pretty good last year. In the Atlantic Coast Conference, Richard, Wake Forest 45, Vanderbilt 25. Good to see Sam Hartman on the field.
Didn't miss a single beat after blood clot issues. 300 through the air, 4 tutties. I mean, they are back on offense. I will say that. And that was impressive to see. Virginia Tech 27, Boston College 10. Virginia Tech, I think, deserves credit. Same in the old Dominion game. That defense plays really well. It plays really well.
No, it's a good defense, I think. Let's read some highlights from Boston College here.
Highlights is one way to put it.
They punted 10 times, and on not one of those drives did they pass their own 32-yard line. They crossed midfield twice in this game. Their average drive distance was 11 yards, and they averaged 2.6 yards per play. So it's that kind of year in Chestnut Hill. North Carolina 35, Georgia State 28. Just noting this one, UNC is 3-0. They have won their 2 G5 games by a combined 9 points and had an FCS win where they gave up a bunch of yards to a team that was in apparently pretty big disarray at the time with FAMU. This is going to be a bowl team, but going to be a roller coaster every single week.
Georgia State's good. Georgia State is good.
Sean Elliott coached scared in this game. He punted.
But you would no.
He punted on 4th and 1 3 times, one of which was from midfield.
He did not coach scared. He coached very, very confident.
You don't think you don't think you get a yard against the North Carolina Tar Heels defense on any of these occasions? You don't think?
I think that, and I think Bud has made this point on Cover 3. When they get into Sunbelt play, they're going to pop some more tempo and they're going to smoke some teams. I'm really impressed with Georgia State after 2 weeks of paying semi-close attention to them. Miami 30, Southern Miss 7. Miami was in a decided fight with this team in the first half, not a physical fight, an actual rock fighty type game in the first half of this game, and then drop the clutch in the second half and move forward. I don't know what the hell that game is going to be against A&M next week. We'll get to it when we get to it in the midweek, but they took care of business in the end here for Miami. Frank Gore Jr., by the way, playing for Southern Miss against Miami is just funny.
That is pretty funny. Consultant Bowl, Duke 31, Northwestern 23. If we want to get transitive with it at this early time of the year, the options are Duke is actually kind of decent, or Nebraska is just unbelievably terrible. It is probably the latter, but indulge me for a minute. Duke looks okay. Duke shut out Temple last week. It's Temple, but they shut him out. Mike Elko is a well-regarded defensive mind. Maybe things are getting better here. Northwestern threw the ball to their running back 17 times in this game. Evan Hull, he caught 14, and it worked. He had 213 receiving yards. Sadly, he fumbled at the goal line.
213
for a running back. And he like lines up as a running back most of the time too. He's just like this kind of rotund but incredibly fast and strong running back. He's fun to watch. He's a lot of fun to watch. Sadly, fumbled at the goal line when Northwestern was trying to tie the game. Louisville 20, UCF 14. Not much here other than UCF might be real bad.
No, I think this is a Louisville evening out of the. This is a
Sure.
Louisville week 1 to week 2 growth type thing. I think UCF is more kind of accurately rated by us.
Sure. There were more than 200 penalty yards in this game. The reason for wondering about UCF being bad is that Louisville got dog walked by Syracuse in week 1. I want to stake this out. Richard, people are asking the question.
Uh-huh.
Everywhere I go, people are asking the question.
Yep.
You can't walk down the street and not be asked this question. Has Syracuse figured it out? I think they might have. Now, it's not because they beat UConn, but they did look, again, offensively very impressive. They won 48-14. Garrett Schrader, 2 very, very good games in a row. Sean Tucker produces against anyone. And here's my question for you. Remember Sterling Gilbert, their former offensive coordinator, guy who's been responsible for a bunch of really bad offenses in the last few years?
Yes.
They fired him. They replaced him with Robert Anai, who'd been with Bronco at BYU and UVA. This might be good. Is this fixed?
I don't know about fixed. Improving, good. Yeah. Illinois 24, Virginia 3. Hey, you heard it here first on the spiritual predecessor to this podcast years ago. Illinois adjusted expectations. And for Illinois adjusted expectations, this Illinois team is good.
Should be 3-0. Would be if not for some bad officiating in Bloomington last week. Maryland 56, Charlotte 21. Not noting this for Maryland. You know the drill with Maryland in the early season. They're going to put up big numbers against bad opponents.
Talia had like 300 passing yards in the first half.
Yeah, don't care. I mean, I hope that things continue to go well, but I need to see more, as I think every Maryland fan does. Charlotte, though, man, this is a tough one. They might be the worst team in FBS. Like, I don't know. I have been a Will Healy believer, and I think he is a smart coach with a potentially very bright future, but this shit ain't working. It ain't working at all. Michigan outgained Hawaii by 335 yards, but did not cover.
It is hard to explain how. Well, first of all, they did the 2 quarterback thing again and then ended up playing the third guy. We're not spending more than 10 seconds on this. Hawaii cover of the year. They covered 51.5. At the end there. And for some of us who were very interested in Hawaii covering that number, we were very happy with the Islanders in that game. USC 41, Stanford 28. This game was, I'm not going to say USC didn't whoop Stanford because they did, but Stanford had like 3 turnovers, not just like in the red zone, not just at like the 17. They were at like the 5-yard line when they had like 3 turnovers over the course of this game. Lincoln Riley has brought Oklahoma to Los Angeles. They are going to score at will here. I mean, it is abundantly clear. However, will they stop folks? Well, folks, it remains to be seen. Stanford, credit where credit is due there. They are pivoting, running RPOs, the Wake Forest style of them, and a 4-3 defense. David Shaw is trying to change some things, and he deserves credit for that.
I mean, USC is going to score 40 a game in the Pac-12. So do I think the defense is probably bad? Yeah, it's an Alex Grinch defense. I don't think it's going to be good. But, hey, maybe we should pivot to the one place where Alex Grinch had a good defense, and that parlayed that into a lot. Washington State 17, Wisconsin 14. Great win for the Cougs. It does not fit neatly into the things we have been watching with these teams, which are really the QBs. Cam Ward wasn't great for a second week in a row. 2 picks, took him a lot of throws to get to 200 yards. Graham Mertz was actually a good bit better, but they still scored 14 points. Braylon Allen couldn't really run the ball in this game. Good for Wazoo's front. Nakia Watson, former backup at Wisconsin, a hero for Wazoo here, had the winning score. Also kind of a homecoming for Jake Dickert, who's a guy from Waukesha, from Wisconsin, played at Stevens Point. Great for Wazoo.
There were two separate interceptions in this game where the interceptor intercepted the ball and then fumbled it back to the offense. Oklahoma State 34, Arizona State 17. I don't know a lot here, but Oklahoma State did not come out and score 1,000,000 points in this game, but did play pretty good defense.
Yeah, kind of a restoration of equilibrium, I guess, back to the way they were last year. Who knows? Oregon State 35, Fresno State 32. One of the games of the day. Walk-off for the Beavs in Fresno. They went for it at the goal line down 3 on the last play of the game. Richard, you would like this. They ran what looked like a straightforward zone run off right tackle, but out of the Wildcat with nobody else in the backfield and with the defense, or nobody else like deep in the backfield, nobody else like sidecarring. You obviously have to have 7 guys on the line of scrimmage. It was fun. Jonathan Smith has a bag and he likes to go into it. Fresno had some missed kick problems, a PAT, a short field goal. Feel for them because Jake Haener played his heart out as he tends to do. And this is a missed opportunity for Fresno to put up another Power 5 win.
Air Force 41, Colorado 10. Colorado is not good. Really not good. Worse than I thought.
Yeah, you want to read some of the things we have about Colorado in these notes to give listeners a depiction of this?
I stink. 8 first downs in the whole game.
The quarterback was 5 of 21. It's not going to work out. Air Force, by the way, looks pretty serious right now. I think they might be the best of the service academies this year. I think they could win the CIC.
I don't think it's going to be close.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's stake that out. Air Force for the CIC this year. I think that they are
Navy
way
is
better
awful.
than Navy. Well, it's an arm. We're really asking an Army question, aren't we?
Sure.
Yeah. And in fact, we'll get to Army in just a sec, but I wanted to note Cal 20, UNLV 14. This is what Cal does. Like they play these not good G5 teams and beat them. They played not good to decent G5 teams and beat them by 1 score. It's what they've done for the whole of the Justin Wilcox era. But Richard, UTSA 41, Army 38 in overtime in West Point. That's a cover.
That is indeed a cover for all of us at the BetUS Pick'em, who had the Meeps at -2. BetUS is a sponsor of the show this year. Go to betus.com. That's betus.com to join now and get 200% in bonuses with promo code SCD. Nobody in the industry gives better discounts than BetUS. Again, join up, use the code SCD, and you can get up to a 200% bonus on your first deposit. Yes, we did cover 3, baby. We really did. Army threw the ball for over 300 yards. It was their most passing yards since 2007.
Yeah, 63% of Army's yards came via the pass in this game, which almost never happens for them. I don't want to overstate it like they never drop back and throw. It's just that they don't usually do it this successfully. They had a game, I think, last year against Navy, actually, where they dropped back on a higher percentage of their plays. They dropped back on like 33% of their plays. It was 27% this game, but it worked this game. They did it successfully. And so it's probably pretty painful that they couldn't win even while doing that. UTSA is going to continue to be fun. Guy to watch here other than Frank Harris is their slot receiver, Josh Cephas, who's not a small slot receiver type. He's just like this 6'3", really good athlete who moves fluidly. Son of Marvin Cephas, former NFLer. They feed this guy the ball. Like he is, I think the focal point of the offense is their slot receiver. It's no longer running back now that Sincere McCormick has departed. So keep an eye on UTSA as usual. Here was one, Richard. Weber State 35, Utah State 7.
Dude, Utah State sucks. Like they're bad. Really bad. Jay Hill, Weber State's head coach. I think we've talked about him in years past as a head coaching candidate. Watch him. Just watch that space. Holy Cross 37, Buffalo 31. Holy Cross, first true blue Hail Mary, I think, of the year. Memphis 37, Navy 13. Navy is not good. They're not good.
Yeah, it was a comprehensive ass kicking for Memphis, which is good to see because Memphis has had a kind of meh last couple of years, and you would like to see something. Just kind of as a quick reference point for how things have gone for Navy, here are their yards per carry against Memphis in the last handful of meetings over a lot of years. I'll go in chronological order, going back to when they got to the AAC. 5.7 yards per carry for Navy against Memphis. 6, 4.6, 3.6, 4.4, 4.5, 3, 3.7. Why do I bring that up? That kind of downward line. It's because Navy for a while was able to cover up athletic deficiencies in a conference with a lot of really good athletic opponents. They can't do it anymore. And now you just have Navy getting kind of out-athleted by the good teams that they're going to play in this conference. It's an issue. UTEP 20, New Mexico State 13. Battle of I-10 goes to the Miners. Good for them. I don't think UTEP is going to have another up year the way that they did last year, but this is a win that can kind of sort of make a season for either of these teams. And NMSU, if it's not Charlotte, is probably the worst team that we have in FBS.
Middle Tennessee 34, Colorado State 19. Middle was a 13-point underdog, and we're up almost 30 points at half. Colorado State is trying to move from Steve Adazio ball to something of an air raid style system under Jay Norvell. It is going to take a while. ECU 39, Old Dominion 21. This is kind of the game of like week one darlings, right? And it didn't go great for Old Dominion again.
Well, for Old Dominion for the first time, week one did go great for them, but Keaton Mitchell, the East Carolina running back, had a field day in this game, and it's good for ECU after the huge deflation of losing the way they did to NC State to get a nice win here. USF 42, Howard 20, but it was a touchdown game in the second half, and I think Howard is like not a good FCS team. Well, and what I'm getting at is that USF is, I'm still not seeing it here.
I think I think Howard was very motivated in this game to beat USF. Larry Scott is a longtime Florida guy, was in on this job when it came about. I thought Howard was up for it. Again, game for it in the second half, and then depth one out because it wins out. Boise State 31, New Mexico 14. You want more from Boise in this game. And by you, I mean me. I want more from Boise against New Mexico. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of weird special teams in this game. Boise ran back a punt. New Mexico had a kickoff touchdown. Boise averted disaster. They had to win a game after what happened at Oregon State, but still not really reassuring. Last one, Richard. Eastern Kentucky 59, Bowling Green 57.
How about
7 overtimes. I think we can safely assume that Bowling Green is going to open. Big news break there. But Eastern Kentucky, you know what's been going on with Eastern Kentucky lately?
I do, actually. Their head coach, like a staffer came into his office and found him like on the ground, like basically dead, and was resuscitated by the team trainer in the locker room or in the facility.
Walt Wells was admitted to the ICU right before the season after a cardiac episode. I hope he's doing well. I hope he did not watch any of these overtimes. Sincerely, EKU has an acting head coach right now, Gary McPeak. They are still fighting. They gave Eastern Michigan a pretty good run in week one, and now they do get an FBS win. By the way, so that was 3 FCS wins this week over FBS. This one was a 3-pointer in the FCS upset draft. 4.3% of entries had it. Holy Cross of Buffalo. Yeah.
I will say for EKU's credit, in the fifth again, this game went 7 overtimes. In the fifth overtime in this game, they tried to run like a hook and lateral to an offensive lineman during the like 2-point fiesta that we now do at the end of the overtimes, and they overcame that to win the game. Good for them.
Holy Cross over Buffalo, that was a 3-pointer as well. Almost nobody had that. Just 2 people had it out of like almost 800. Weber over Utah State, that was the big one. A 10-pointer, 4.7% of entries had it. Congrats to you if you took it. That means you are in business. Richard, this was like a 45-minute hurry up, but it's a pleasure. I'll see you back here next Sunday, if that sounds good.
That's fine. The hurry up, the 30-minute clock is just to keep us honest and at a pace. When a week necessitates it, we can, we make the rules here. Time is a social construct. Alex, real quick, NFL week 1 this week. Do you have the cultural reference to understand how funny it is that Mike Tomlin bought your entire NFL team black Air Force Ones? Yes or no question?
Yeah.
All right. Jags get Commanders week 1. Go Jaguars.